What's today? Today is Yom Sheni, Moitzoi Kof Sivan. I'm pleased that it's Moitzoi. You know about that. Kof Sivan was a very not modeled day by Yidden in Deutschland. That's a Kof Sivan is the reason why on Shabbos Mavokim Sivan you nonetheless say Avraham. Basically from the mouth. It's Moitzoi Kof Sivan. It's Tovshin Samches Shir Bayin Beis Sof Toflam Ayin Chilas Toflam Ches Chelik Aleph Dibur HaMaschil Vayorach Hashem Esreich HaMchayim. You guys never read the story about the Shach, famous story about the Shach and his daughter. The Shach when you were there in Fish Mishpat. I don't know the whole the total pogroms in Europe at that time. And the Shach was involved, he was caught up in the whole thing. And while he was fleeing and running, he wrote a lot of his Pirushim on Cheshim Mill, and you're death and all. In the mitzvah of Shach Lechatom. So we're talking about the union of Tainuk Ve'etzem, and we saw the pure Hadover was Dvorim Shehim Revim Bali Tainuk Mashpiyei Tainuk Mitzad Etzem Metziusom Ve'etzem Minyonam. And we saw that there was also Ma'ir, the union in Nefesh of Koyach HaTainu Bi'atzmeh, we call that Etzem HaTainu. The Hainu is Galus from Shochis, Inyan HaTainu even Harogio, Im Nomaka. Mitzad Koyach HaTainu Atzmeh K'moy Shehu B'inyone B'Nefesh. And that's what we saw with the two Inyonim, however. We saw that the Moshe of the Bas Miller, that she was Toyim, or she was Mariach, the Reach at the Tzike Kedera. It's a little powerful, don't you think? Is there any way of listening in a bit?
Only if we can find the Shalat.
No, you can't find the thing. I don't know if it was working when it came in.
It's very cold. To me, it's very, very cold. It's very hot. Maybe there's a different place to sit.
No, the Shalat is a sort of a thing that works there. They used to have it up here somewhere. I don't see it. I'm just afraid that if we go on like we'll get somebody that'll chew it. That's where we're going.
If you want to turn it up, there's a little button up there.
Yes, well, I don't know if we should do that. I don't think it's something to turn off altogether. I just think to tune it. Anyway, look, it's a shame we've already started this year. I can feel it coming very massively. I'm just worried that we'll get a bit sick.
Very strong.
I'll get a phone and I'll turn off the switch.
I know, but then it might cause trouble. I don't want to do it that way. Listen, there's no choice. With somebody of mine stepping up to the Benson, you know the Zal, you know the guys. Maybe ask one of them, maybe like, more sort of responsible guys. You know all the fellas. Ask them if they know where the Shalat is. If we just want to turn, they'll have it right under our nose.
What temperature? It's 20.
Maybe it's not.
Maybe that's why it's like it is, because they couldn't get it maybe they couldn't go down anymore. Maybe it doesn't go anymore now.
Nah.
Maybe you have to press negative, not positive.
this is pretty good.
I think the batteries are gone.
No, it's
Maybe the technology wasn't about it. Maybe they did it.
yeah. I think they will use speed values for 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, it will reset itself, and then it will work.
It's not working.
Yeah, but in 2 minutes, when its power runs out, it'll reset itself, and then
Okay.
its power will run out, and then it'll reset, and it will probably work.
Wait 2 minutes and see what happens.
So we saw the Moshe of the Basmila Shehirim Mitziche Kedero. That was, we saw in the detail of the Moshe that the Tzike Kedero is a sharp Charifus or a Kihuya that is Meshiv the Nefesh in an unusual and matzah bilti rogil, and maybe even bilti ratzui, be'etzem minyona. Dahainu, when is a chalisha salei? When is a chalisha salei ba'ifam miyuchad, then tafke through a dover choliv and a dover bilti rogil, it's possible to be machzir a meishiv the inin of chayas and nefesh. We saw that that's mo'era, a tainug of a that's aleph, not mitzvah ador unag be'etem, it's not a dover shel tainug be'etem inyoneh. And zweitens, that's a mo'era in the nefesh, Ayin von tainug, not mitzad etzem a tainug, but also mitzad a tainug bilti suda, no ki'ilo Ayin עצמי שלא כדרך המשוכר הרגילה of כוח התיינוג שבנפש. So that's basically where we were holding. And so we saw in the dogma how it is Lamaila that the Oiris Amiskalim in Olam HaAtzilas, all of them Amiskalas of course in Spheres HaMalchus, and we saw that was the infant Beis Paroi. All the Inyanim should be miskala in the house of Paris in the Posik when we get to Yosef. So we tied it Kola.
The air conditioner is off.
It's too heavy, yeah.
It's off.
Okay.
It's turned off altogether.
No, it's good.
You say it's not good?
No, I'm just saying that it's not cooling anymore.
I don't understand.
It was very cold, now it's gone off.
Now it's good.
It's not pulling? What does that mean?
It's not cooling off anymore.
It's just blowing air.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be good tomorrow. I mean, the bottom one I have.
When it gets hot, it'll go back on.
Huh?
It's a thermostat. It'll go on when it gets hot again.
So we saw that the Indian of the Oiris had a miskala in Malchus. Well, that's base of Paroi, the base of the Ispanim by Kol Nahir in Elohim. But that's the Amshocha of the Oiris of all the spheres, and their Giluim, how they are in Malchus. And so we saw that the sword, the Koyach of the Giluim, and the Hamshocha from all the spheres into Malchus is the Indian of Oinek. But that's Oinek, Kaviohu, Tzad, the Oinek Ha'atzmi Shalamayla, meaning the Seder of Gilui Ha'oinig Mitzad Seder Ha'oiras of Tikkun Be'etzem. That's basically where we're holding. Right at the bottom of Tov Lamed Zayin, V'hein Oiras Be'giluim She'esh Bem Oinig Be'etzem. She'hein B'chinas Oiras De Tikkun B'chinas Shem Ma. As we say in the Posach Eliyahu, the Ihu Oirach Atzilus. the way, literally, the derech by which all inyanim are mizkala. Like we said that what, even by the Odom, the koyach ha-mamshich, gilui, from the koyach one to the other, and so forth, into machshava dibur u'maiz, and eventually into poel mamish, is the inyan of oinig, the infant tainu. Therefore, that infant Shem Ma, what we'll soon see, Inyone is the inyan from oinig, and the iskalas of the etzem hatikun, mitzad etzem inyan oinig shalamayla, then that's called oirach atzilus, literally the way or the derech of oilam atzilus. Ukemaimar Azal, the famous lashon in the Medrash Rabbah, Dain Hanyin lei, or Hanoyin lei. It's written in reference to the binyan of oilam tuyu, and then later the binyan of oilam tikun, that the Medrash says that Hoya Kodesh Baruch Hu boino oilam umachliva, that he built oilamas, but then he brought them into destruction. Hava oima, and he said about them, Dain ahanyan li v'dain, Dain lo ahanyan li, and then eventually he said Daina ahanyan li. In other words, that the oilam is prior to zeha oilam, as it were, pashtas einyonim, or they were in from oilam to or spheres of tayu. About them, he said Dain lo ahanyan, they're not my tainu, they're not the gila of Inig Shalamayla. Ve'ilu oilam atikun, he said Dain ahanyan li, or hanoyin li, which means that the gilui of all the oilers are not sealers, kamoishaheim, al yadei, as we'll soon see the union of the Shem Ma, and there is galus into Malchus starts here, the spheres of Malchus, but that is, the time of Shalom. About that the Avisha said, that is my time, meaning that's the union of Ainuk B'derech HaMshocha HaRagila V'Etzem union of Oini, as we've been calling that all the way through in this passage. The B'chinas HaTikun Zeu B'chinas Toi B'Etzem. In other words, that it's an union which in its very self is a dova mu'unag, it's a dova of tainu, meaning that the interrelation and the scholars, and through that the eventual hamshoche into Malchus and mamera into Elomus Biyah, that is implied through Tikkun, which is Atzilus, or that is Toiv B'Etzem, that's the Emes Kavona, and that is the union of Giloya Toiv or Amiti Shalamayla. And therefore he calls that Oinig Atzmi, like we saw in the Mashal of the Nefesh, or the union of Oinig by definition, as we were careful to touch it last week, or that we call Oinig Atzmi. So now we begin with what is basically Akasha. So you say that Atzilus is all inyonim of Oinig mitzad definition, Oinig Atzmi, Toiv, everything is Kilu, Chatchila Toiv Unag, and that's Nimshach into Malchus, and that's inyan from Beis Paroi. So the Rebbe says, Atzilus itself comes from Toiv. It's well known, and Mavur in the Arizal and brought down Barichas and considers that Olam Atzilus is the first biro after the spheres of Toiv, after the Nefila of the Shvira in Toiv. The very first biro is the biro of Olam Atzilus. So I mean, we're making here a chilik between what we're eventually going to touch the Nimsha of the Tzikei Kedera. We're going to say that that's the Seder of Toiv. The whole inyan from Tzikei Kedera, and the Tainu which comes from Dvorim HaMenagdim, and the whole Moshel of it all, we're going to touch it, that's Toiv. Ve'ilu the inyan from Oinig B'Etzem, there are Moshel of Tikkun. So therefore the spheres that they are in Olam Atzilus, which is Tikkun, they are Oinig Masuda, Oinig Atzmi, as we call it here. So the Rebbe said, wait a minute, Atzilus itself came about through the bidder of the inyan of Toiv. Atzilus is also the biro of the Tzikei Kedera. It's not a union for Lechatchila Riba. So how come that you say that Atzilus is Oinig Masuda or Oinig Atzmi? V'imi yoishta Atzilus hu gam kein mashen is bara mebchinas ha-Toiv. K'mavur hu yadua b'avi mekayim. So hina is already a teres. Hina ha'ike mashen is bara מבחינת הטויו, הם מבחינת הכלים דאצילus. So maybe we could say that the Ika which came out from Toyu and was made into the Indian from Oiraham Oiniga Achmi of Oilam Atzilus was the Kelim. Mamera, what was Mizbaraf and Toyu? Kishmoy Kainu, Shviras HaKelim the Toyu. The Ika Nefila and the Ika necessity for Biro in Toyu was Mitzad the Kelim. So you might say, well, what have you answered? So what the Rebbe wants to suggest in that very first teretz is that we're talking about the Oros of Atzilus. Yeah. We're talking about the Giluim Atzmim Milmaila Lamata in Atzilus. And the Kelim, they are, they're not so much the Inim from Atzilus, they're already the Mihim Briyash of Atzilus, they're already shy to Amshocha Kilo Lamata and Michutz Atzilus. Our Ika concern is maybe not with the Inim from the Kelim of Atzilus, nor the Klolos Giluim of Atzilus, and the Kelim just assist those Giluim. And the Giluim are Tainu Be'eter. Whatever said the Ika which came about from Toyu, B'derech Teretz, how do we say, Lafi Shor, adequate Haskoma or Hashkofa Rishino, is that the Mamela we can say that be Ika mitzad the Kelim. However, said the Rebbe, Omnom, Mashmois ha'etz Chaim hu degam ba'ha'oireis yesh mashin is bara mibchinas ha'toyu. It's hard to avoid the kasha by saying the Be'ika we're concerned with the Gilui Elokus Milmaila in Oilam Atzilus, and Mamela that's the Ika is Oiro, the Ika concern is with the Gilui Oiro, and we're talking about the Hamshocha from over the Inyonim into Malchus. Be'ika that's mitzad the Oiros. In Mamela, let's forget the Kelim and we'll deal mainly with the Oiros, and we'll say that the Oiros are mu'unag be'et, and they're the Inim and Oinig ha'achim. So he said, the Mashmois in Eitz Chaim, in the passages of the Eitz Chaim which deal with the Shviras HaKelim, it's mashma that also in the Oiros, Yesh Mashin is bara mibchinas ha'toyo. It's going to be very hard to say that the Ika Biur Adkan's been in the Oiros v'Hagiluim. And the Ina Kelim is a necessity to be there Kedei Lahamshich as Hagiluim. But Ayin Anu Eishkim is there, Bihu Eishkim in the Oiros, and they're the ones that are Malchatchila Toy. So it says, but if you look carefully, you'll see that in all Inyonim, and particularly in this Inyan, then we also say that the Biro Toyhu was also mitzad the Oiros, not only mitzad the Kelim. So that needs a little bit of a isbonaness, it needs a little bit of a hagdora, because mavua b'habi mekeimes that be'ilamat toihu, the shvira caused two inyonim. It caused the klolos, what you might call the nafila of ilamat toihu. To use an expression, the hatzlocha, the siddur of ilamat toihu, to use an expression. Was in two inyonim. Aleph, that the oiros were mistalik l'mayla, the ika oiros of Toihu, being as they were completely unable to be miskabel in the Kelim, they were mistalik l'mayla l'ter shorsham, and the Kelim being left without oiros altogether, the Kelim being left with purely the inyan from Gilu ha-kaviyoho yeshes. I mean, the expression is you going to get to the yeshes that there was in the Kelim caused a sort of a collision or a stark friction between the Kelim and Mamela. That's what was goyim the Inyan of Nefilas and Netzutzes. Be'ika those Netzutzes are from the Kelim. However, how can we say that the Eros involved the Ika not the Kelim? However, it's well known in the Biur Haloshen Netzutzes to Toyu. But the Inyan from Nitzotz is a shy more to a initial oil. It's not so much applicable to a initial Keli. And it's more becoming a Kaimis that the oilos were mislavish in the Kelim. It's not the shot to say that there was not any Islamshus in Toyu. But the Islamshus were of such a sort that it wasn't able to bring about the even Ribuyais Kalalas and the interaction. On the contrary, the Islamshus in the Kalim was such that the Kalim tried as you might say, they tried to use an expression to be Megala only the Tuikif of their oyer. Therefore that led to inabilities to allow other oyers to be Miskala, and therefore the oyers to a certain extent left the situation. They were Mistali. However, Ayin Dosha Kedusha Neakar Mim Koimel Lagamri, a cloud we have in the Medrash. So if there was already oyers in the Kalim, then you can't have that the oyers will completely leave the Kalim. Ayin Davar to say. And therefore it's brought down that in the Bira, the so-called Netzutzes, that we call them, Toihu, Be'ike, what is our chance? What allows us, as Odom, the Tikkun, and Chokhmah, and all those in order to get to the Netzutzes and be Mavara them? Well, that's the fact that there is Netzutzes in those Kalim. Dahainu, there Inyonim Shel Oyer, B'toicha, Akelim. That since the Inyan van Keli, Inyon is Ban, what that's Inyan van Yerida, when they fell very heavily and drastically, and therefore they what pulled down the netzutzes of the oiras, which are paternal, but the netzutzes of the oiras still have that tendency in the oir that oil wants always to go back to its makakir, to it, just that they're somewhat imprisoned in the kalim. It's only what we lamata lamashal. We talk about the bitter lamata lamayla. We're going to talk here in another even. That we reached the fall in Shivrei, Akelim alidei what we touched the oil, and since the autumn he shot to oil and the mitzat nishmosei and the inin of the oil is nechas belavok in the Shivrei Akelim. Well, that's what gives us the possibility of somehow or another, as it were, pincering the Kalim also and elevating them upwards, which means that of course there's a certain gilui of the Eiros in the Kalim of Torah which remain, and there's a certain inyan in the Eiros which are misbarer in the Klolos Amuvan of Bira Toyu. Bira HaToyu also includes the inyan from Oyer, even though the Klolos Oyer was mistalik. And that's what the Rebbe is referring to. That there's also an inyan in the Klolos Amuvan of the Bira of Toyu, also Ayin Shel Oyer. We can't just say that the whole inyan from Atzilus that we're talking about is oilers, which are Chatchila good. They don't have to do with this very special Bira of Toyu, and the Kalim of the Ika thing that have to do with that. We're talking about Chatchila Riba Oinik Be'etzim, that's the oiler. So the Rebbe said, no, even the oilers of Atzilus are also Mizbaramea Atoyu L'Kol HaPochis inyan, what you might call Chelik Mehem, or certain inyanim in them. And what do you do with that? So therefore he comes up with a new idea altogether. And he said, Harei Yadua Shezehu Mashin is Baramil Maila Lamata. Bo Bachilas Bepinas Oyer Mavura Kfar. Vezo Pina Shema. There's a very deep in it. We've got to sort of work really hard to get to the Mekudas Advari. And the Rebbe says that there's two oifanim that the Bira of Toyu occurred. And it's I think we already had a certain mention of this in an earlier part of the Hamshah. And it's Mavur, and it's become famous and become a drushim, that there are two oifanim in the Bira of Toyu. Either we say it's a Bira Milmaila Lamata, or we say that there's a Bira Milmata Lamaila. Now the marshal from Bira Milmaila Lamata is that Be'ika, we can imagine a smithy or somebody like that who was trying to be Mavara his kesef, let's say. And he, knowing that inside the kesef are certain sige pesoilas, and he wants to be Mavara the kesef and come out with a best. So there's one way of doing it where you don't bother with the pesoilas, you're busy with the kesef, and your whole in is to be malakit, the kesef hator here, and to leave behind the pesoilas. And remember, what you do, you start off with the best possible kesef that you can find. And that's what you take out. And remember, what's left over is fallen on Madriga now, because it's not the pure kesef, which has almost no peselas in it whatsoever. And the next, what's left is also a lot of pure kesef, but it's mixed with certain traces of the peselas. And so what you do is you then take the best out of that, you can possibly take the best kesef tahor, and then there's a further, what you might call, drop of what's left over, falls further down and further until you take out the remaining best that you can, and the heavy peselas falls lamat. So that's called bira mil maila lamat. In the nimshal, those are the bira mil maila lamat. It follows that even though I have a dover shemu'uda peselas v'muvcha, I really know with the muvcha, and the peselas is kilo adovet study, which, albeit my actions make it become more noticeable, or maybe even more chomer than it is in the way that it's all mixed together, but gradually it sort of goes down and it becomes more noticeable because I've taken out the etzematoiv, which is reachable. That's called a bira mil maila lamat. So there's another bira, which is called the bira mil mata lamaila, and that's the what you might call the difficult task, which for many generations has fallen to the task and to the lot of the nishamas in gufim, but they get that. They deal with the situation like this mamish lamata, and they've got to deal with the peselas, and they've got to try and take out of the peselas. They've got to try and find what's left in it, in yoneh hatoiv, and then they gradually push away as much peselas as they can, and then they purify as much peselas as they can, and they gradually work upwards, and that's a bira mil mata lamayla, which means that to a certain extent you're not busy only with the ra, but your inyan is to be beika oisik mit the ra lahavdiloi, and to put it to the side, and the other one, you're not concerned with the ra, you're only concerned with and you're only oisik in the ika ha-atui. So the Rebbe says that the whole concept that we say that Olam HaTzilas is Nizbara Mitoyu, Olam HaTzilas is Nizbara Mitoyu. And to a certain extent, Kol Olam HaSeim Boivim Kozeh. But they are Nizbara Mil Mailala Lamata. Remember, the Inyan from HaTzilas is how the Eibush took out. He took out the Yohiroids, how they were shy to the Kelim. And he took out the highest in it there was in the Kelim. It was still mamish bottle of a nickel, it was a clear alcopolim to the oil. And that's what became Olam HaTzilas. Imam Afilu will say that there was a bira of the Inyan Vantoyu to bring to Atzilas. It's impossible to say otherwise. But it was a kaviyohum u'mayla lamata, and the Eibush was the Ikea Smithy, what his inyan was that he dealt only with the toiv, and in the toiv gufa, the tachlis toiv, which was right at the top of the whole process, you might say, was waiting and ready there just to be taken out. And therefore, even though it does come from toihu, nonetheless it becomes a dova hamavura bi etzer, which not the case as we go down into Olam as biyah, particularly as we go past Olam Abri and we get into the Yitzir of Atiyah, down there, even if he's doing it Milmaila, the presence of the peselas has become more noticeable, and therefore it's more muragash. They have dil bein zelo zeh, and this has a sort of the peselas has a certain tfisis mokim. Like the toiv biyah, and that was mavu in the Kisvei Arizal, that in Olam HaTzir you can already talk about machzis toiv or machzis chotzi toiv, chotzi ra. Ve'ilu b'olam habriya you say rubi toiv miyutoi, no ayin for miyut ayin shura. And in that kufa kimat kosher ledaber letaya of already in Olam HaTzir you say that this is matzo Amakto. He said, as I go down, then I have more comparison, or how do you call it? A matzav of a marocha from Shnei Tzodim. Of at the beginning of the bira, it's not a marocha from Shnei Tzodim. No, that's tzad echad. Everything comes out betachlis habira. That's what we mean, says the Rebbe, that the inyan from the Atzilas and the spheres of Atzilas, and especially the oyer in Atzilas, well, that's all in an even from tachlis habira, in such a way that it's become tui be'etzem. It's no longer noticeable that it's a dova hamavura. And kilo, one could maybe say that even to a certain extent, it doesn't become shai to ayin shel bira. When I say bira in its own self, when I get to the isnagdus of the loita, that we get ayin in which we, even though we brought it from a matzav, which did eventually lead to nafila, but we are mavarad and we bring it in such a way that we murugish b'zeh inyan nafila. Another Rebbe, we'll see in a second, we puyo alidei this kilo shema, even a inyan that it becomes tuiv and mura mamish boif and nifla be'eter.
The bira in Atzilus Milamata, that after the initial histalkus of the oris? After
the what?
It's after the first histalkus of the oris?
Yeah, the whole bira is only after the histalkus of the oris. Kol that the oris say, then you got, it's still oil mateo b'shlei musa. You follow the etzem nafila and the habdol of the oil are all one in it, or chadamat. What we're saying is that despite the histalkus of the oil, there's still a inyan for the oiris indication. He said, the gam shema datzilus, the gam shema datzilus, zeo mashin is bare. He said, even the inyan from shema itself, well, that is something that underwent a bira. In other words, even though when we use the shema, you seem to be talking about a tremendously elevated madrega in your name. Nonetheless, he said that the inyan from Shema is also an inyan that's been through a bira. Mashin is bara. Rak liyesh a bira bezehu milamayla, that the bira is, like we said, milmayla davke. Okay, nizbara betachlis a bira b'yesel. She'em bezeh shum ta'arives pseilas klau. V'nasa b'chinas uyer atzmi k'moy shelo yehoyo bezeh shvira v'nafila klal. In other words, the Ika Uirach Atzilas, which is Shema, that becomes so nisbarer by that first bira, Milmailala Mata, that it becomes a Uir Atzmi meaning that Be'etzem, it's doiv, beli kilo there was ever any Tarivas or any which could suggest otherwise. No, it becomes Mamisha Invan Etzem Toiv. And he said that becomes in Azar, or even that it could never, as you might say, pick. It would never be noticeable. It was Ayin show Nafila Bezeh.
But Gavni said in the Moshul of the Smith that in Atzilus it's picking out the
key to it. Yeah, the Muvcha Be'eter.
So that is Atzilus what's picked out.
Yeah. The Davish Gabriel is later Milmaila Lamata, and the slight heavier mixture falls Lamata into Lamabri. Got that there? What is he referring to here? The senior from Shema is also in his barrier. What's he killed the Taichpa there? And what is the inyan? That becomes Ad Kedikach. Even though it's Nizbarer, it becomes a inyan Atzmi Toiv Kilo Be'etim Mavura Betak. I should do it. Considers that there are two inyanim in Shema. There's two kami inyanim which are connected with Chokmah. For example, there's the inyan from Shem Ab, which is well known that Shem Ab is B'Chokmah, and then the Shema, and then the Shema HaChodosh, which is the new Shema. So there's a big difference made in the sense between Shema Atzmi, or what you might call Shema Rishon or Atzmi, and then a Shema HaChadash, a new Shema. So what is the difference between Shema HaMakoiri, as you might say, and Shema HaChadash? The Shem Ma, that's mamish in certain places, it's connected mamish with Ab. That Ab and Ma, in other words, that they're what's called Bilti Mechudash. It's a state lesson. That they're not Mechudash at all. Even though close, Kol Hashem is Mechudoshim, Beis Madrege. Why do we say it's Bilti Mechudash? That just as if he, the Eibush is Toiv Be'etem. So the union for Ma is the union for Giluya Achmias of Toiv comes to say Chol B'Liyesh B'Giluim. And therefore that's in from Shem Ab, but the Shem Ab is the original Gilui or the Beetle Amiti in what's going to be the Makablim Alidei, the Gilui of Elokus Mamish. And that's in from Atik. It's connected with Pnimis V'Achmis HaChochma V'Chulu. That's in from Ab. Ma HaMakweli is very similar to that, if not the same. It's not the same meaning in Mamish.
It's not the same that what it says in the Tanya, but Avinam. In the Tanya, it says something about Avinam. Is before this or afterwards?
Avinam is very Chokman Bina. That's all his fears of Atzilas. But there's a protein yonim in Atzilas. It follows if he said that what's the Indian then of Shema Achadash? So it's written that after there was the Indian of the Shvira, after there was this Indian for Tarivas Bilti Ratsui, which was Miskala through the Indian, what we said before was the Loshen Shema Mushal, the Iyatz Locha, and the spirits of Toyu. Then the Eibishter made a new Shema Kavihu. He was Miskala, a new Indian, which Indian was to be Mavarar or Metakin Mashu. And that's the bittul of the Chochma of Atzilas, which is Shema, what in Yone is the heritage of the bittul to the Atzmus Mamish, but Letake Mashu, which means that it's already a certain in that in itself, that is said, if your Indian is to be metakin something that's got a certain shmek of topic of Matthias, then you also got a little bit of you're not the original Shema, you're what's called a Davar Chadash. You've got a new task. Shema is Bittul Be'etem. I mean, Mamish Bittul Be'etem Shema Etem. You've got a job already. You're a Shema, you're Ha'orah from that Shema, but you've come to bring Bittul to something else. So Mitzad Echad, that's a tremendous task. Mitzad Hasheni, it's already Kiva. You read it from the Etzim Kovid of the Shema Ha'atzmi. And that's what the Rebbe means here. He means that Indian from the Shema, how it is in Atzilas, it's also been misbarer. What do you mean misbarer? Not Chulila that it was pagum, that it needed a biro, but it's also undergone a certain yerida from its COVID of the Etzem Shema, and it's coming into Atzilas, meaning that it's also got to undergo a new balance in its whole inner kidei, that it should be misasik with a inif and a fila. And therefore it's also been misbareh, period. It had to be prepared for the inif and mirror. And I would say it's got a certain connection with the whole Indian, but he said the chiddush is that even though it's been through that, and it's all Indian is in order to be mavarer, since that's all under the guidance of Milmaila Lamata, therefore it becomes taki from as far as bir is concerned, as far as this whole Indian being poel abiru, then it becomes the Indian from tachlis abiru, to the point that it doesn't know that it doesn't have an Indian from tareves. Peselas cloud. In other words, that it takes on in itself its original state of being purity of Elokus Be'etzem after having gone through a certain yerida in order to be matake and to be nimshik in through the union of the nafila of Toyu and to bring about a tikkun bozeh. He said, however, since it's all milmaila lamata, and you might say it's all under the guidance kaviyoho of the Eivish to himself, it's all he who is doing it, Milmaila Lamata, and therefore it loses any trace of having any shaykhs to a biru, and it becomes a dova mavura be'etzem minyon. Until it's not nika b'zeh, or not even shaykh b'zeh, Indian from Pselas cloud. V'nashe b'chinas uyar atzmi, it becomes as if it were a Indian be'etzem Gilu Elikus, just like the Shema HaMekoiri, Kemoi Shaloi Hoya was a Shvira Nafila. Wow. In other words, really there was a certain Shvira Nafila in the Shema itself. The fact that it went down, like we said, to be Mizbara means that it's got a certain Shaykhs to all these things on it. Nonetheless, it's Nifal, or even Kazeh, that like Gabi, the whole Indian from the Shvira, it becomes in Azar Darga and it's Poel, it's Indian in the Bira of the Inyanim of Tzilas, Uirachat Tzilas. It becomes the whole way of the functioning of Tzilas in such a way that it's not Nikah, any Indian of Shvira or Nafila, not even in order to be Nimshak, it feels it. It becomes Kilo Ayin from Atzmi. V'yesh Loima, says the Rebbe, to give us some idea of what that's about, to picture in our minds, how can we sort of picture a Zazach? What, as I said, we're basing ourselves here on a Chiddush, that even the Inif and Shema itself needs a sort of a biro, because, in other words, it's like maybe it's the B'derech Tzachus, Shebetzachus, it's like a little bit like the Rebbe said in Perikov Ches in Tanya, Misavik Yimenu, Misnavu Tipa Gam Kain. The whole Inif and the Shema, Ha'orah from the Shema, with the Nimshik, Takin Atzilut, Mekevan Shekol Inyoni, who Lisabik, he's also a little bit shy to that. He gets a certain trace of that in him. That's he's in it to deal with that particularly. However, says the Rebbe, that's cleansed out of him altogether. How is that shy? How is it cleansed out? So the answer is because Ma is bittul be'etzem. That's what he said. Becomes a union from atzmi. In other words, no matter where or no matter what, they're botel. And that's the different bittul be'etzem. Imamera Shem Ma says, look, Emes, I was sent here for a task. I got to do all these shviras, all these nefilas, all these inyonim, and so I also got a little bit of the grease on me, and I mean, come on, b'tachlis, with kol inyonim. Over tifinu menik in binik botel legamre. Tifinu menik. Yeah, I don't know anything about all these things. I was born, he's nothing. Man, it was. Nishno was evet hasten. Malachatchila, I'm here. And it's not. That's just forgotten. And just preserve Chachas Shabbatachas. What is in you from that's in you from. Oh, very nice. You chopped me out. You didn't even let me say what I wanted to say. I'm asking with you 100%. That's in you from Baal Tshuva. What is in you from Chabad? What's in you from Lubavitch? Lubavitch says that with all the mass and all the but if you know, it's I've signed an akuda from Beetle B. BMS, Bli Kol, and this man Nitvi was will, that's what I'm for. In the meantime, how do we say it in the Chosin Maimon? Went here, went there, rolled around a little bit, got a bit shy, in and out, but Diokno, Nishoa, Tishoa, Bokli, that's the Shema. And in that regard, Yesh Lemer, it's even higher than the Shema. The Shema, this is worth Mukhudi, that's never been any problems about it. Shema it knows about a problem. Shema admits that there is some sort of and Alpha PK, it can deal with it. So it's deep inside, it doesn't, and therefore it can become, even though it had to do a little bit with the uniform, but it can become a uniform, Alpha PK, and it can become Ki'ilu Shaloyoyo. Kilo Shaloyoyo. And excuse me for citing a little bit living. I mean, that's always a reason we never quite learn as much as what I anticipated we were going to learn. But anyway, I'm sure there won't be any hakpada bedover. Ayish Lema Adosati Inyan was every Inyan benegir to what Lubavitch has to do in a certain time, has to come through the Nazi and the Rebbe of that generation. I mean, the Mashiach. I mean, I'm not saying that. The Rebbe said that the Nazi should be the Mashiach. And has to come through him And that's Megala, what is the immediate necessity of that generation. But you got to be, how to call it, bottled to that. You got to just say, I have no meaning whatsoever, only the Nakuda, the Shema, was assigned to that particular generation. I wander around a bit, and I go, you know, time to get a little bit mavuva, over the Nakuda Medius, and that's the Nakuda Medius of the Rebbe. That's the Rebbe and the Nasi and the Moshiach. That's his Zinia. And that's Shema. And in them prat, that's even higher than Shema. You know, in Mechude, built in Mechude, Shema's never known of anything, never shy to it. That's a Mechok. Chas v'shomar, we know they get Shema, don't quote me as having said anything bad about Shema, Chas v'shomar. Of a Shema, that's exactly what we're facing to this day. That you can't give the generation its message unless you go with what that generation said. What can we do? But we've got to talk about Mashiach. And if we talk about Mashiach, Chassidus will be Meir, everything will be Meir, everything will come out, and it will be Meir. Because don't talk about this Mashiach business too much. Why? Because the Bristlers won't like it. The Bristlers will get praise with you. So why are you talking so much about Mashiach? What's up, Mashiach? Talk about the old stuff, Chassidus. Go for a dance, you know. But your prayers out, feel big, you know. What's Mashiach? That's the chance. So there is, I can't talk too much about Mashiach because the Polishes won't like it. I got to be good with the Polishes. You know. So who said the hell that you have to be good with the Polishes? The Polishes have to be good with you, not you have to be good with the Polishes. And Adarabah, you'll tell them the emes, they'll like it eventually. They have a little bit of a difficulty with it at the beginning, but you've got to have difficulty with everything. If you don't have difficulty with nothing's worth a happening. You first have a bit of difficulty, and then you come to the end. Oh, but Ray, what you say, I can't possibly talk about myself, I can't possibly talk about the Rebbe, I can't do this, and I can't do this. Why? Because the Polishes and the coach came for Calvachem and the literature, they're not going to like it. Is you're in Golas by Zay. You're in Golas, in their Golas. What are you doing? And this is Lubavitch. No, Lubavitch is Shema. Shema is, despite whatever may be, Avu became bottom. And that's a big trick. And doesn't even Shema what he's talking about here. There's a Shema that's already been through it. It's been through the ropes. It's been through the bureau. And Avu becomes. Avu Pina comes back to an Oyer Atzmi. And this is still about it.
But then it's practice very salazak. I thought that was the Tzike Gedera.
Yes.
I thought that.
Nah. We come to Tzike Gedera. We haven't come to Tzike Gedera. What we're trying to say is that this is Tzike Gedera. So what he's answering, it's not. Since even though he's come to a certain bira, in Emerson, that's a bira mu'mailala mata. And Tzike Gedera is going to be the bira mu'mailala mata. That's even harder. For that, for sure, you need Shema. If I swallow it, you need a sure. What we're saying is that even it's very short, Shema has already been through the ropes a little bit. That's what we're saying. And that's what the Rebbe is answering. He's saying that that's Tainu Be'etzem. Those are L'chatchila good. He said, wait a minute, it's not. He said, oh, yes, it is. But it's not. It's been through a little bit through. Tzike Gedera is yours. I don't know whether we're going to come in the coming chapter. There's more of them. Mashvera Geshet. Oh, it's a good question. The Tuchtam. You are such a child. You have to forgive me. I can't sort of take what goes on around a lot. You know, these people, you know, they're talking to Hashem about everything, and they want to talk about the Rebbe. They want to talk about Mashiach. You can't do that, man. Just you can't do it. I mean, they can, but I mean they can't. Anyway, what can I know? Anyway, so we began weiter. So Now the Rebbe brings a gewaltige Dogma auf dem. He said, "V'yesh loima k'moi b'biro sheni t'shem ma." Now, what we're going to do is bring a bio in how Shem Ma, the Tzilas is Puyo, so-called, and then we'll be able to compare that to Shem Ma itself, what it's been through Kiro on a more delicate level, on a higher level. Yesh lema kamei b'biro sheni t'shem ma. Hari yadua shali deze niklolim ha-nitzutz is the biyah b'kedushas ha'atzila. The nitzutz is a biyah anikl in the kedusha of atzila v'nas Elakus mamish. Tezeu ha'efresh bein biro rishon de milmaila de milmata lamaila la biro sheni de milmaila lamata. So to understand what the Rebbe is referring to here, you have to have a little bit of experience in the famous Maimah in Torah and Parsha Miketz. V'hine anaknu mi'almim alumim b'seich hasodeh. Yeah. And then what did Yosef say? Kama aluma yiseichem v'tishtachavena l'aluma si, with the whole in, and in the middle is this aluma of Yosef, and they have to be mishtachav and alidei seim. So the Alter Rebbe says that there's two inyonim in biru. There's what we call a biru mil mata l'mayla, and there's a biru mil mayla l'mata. So he says that the biru mil mata l'mayla, that's how not no mi'almim alumim b'toicha. So what did they do? They took all the things, they made them into, sheaves, and sheaves they need for yichud, which are bringing, the period back into a state of afters. He said, however, it has to be v'tisuvena aluma yiseichem v'tishtachavena l'aluma she'ida. There has to be the afterwards the bittul of those alumas to a central aluma, and if not that, it wouldn't have been finished the whole Indian, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to realize that themselves, because they're a little bit achuz in the Bira Harita. Their ikin is in the Bira Harishon. Over Yosef, he can sort of reveal to them, this other in, because he's shy to that, and he's the middle aluma, which they have to have a certain hishtachavoy to, and then a shy to in of the shleimus abira. So the Rebbe Masber, the pink does was state the Alter Rebbe is mavai over there, barichet, that the first bira alidei deshvotim, how it is in Olam is biyah, that you elevate and you mafrid, like we said, you concern with the bittul of the ra, and you mafrid the ra, and you elevate. But since you're busy with the inif and hafrod sarah, and you're busy with a sokol, so forth, a milchama, as I mean, as you can only get the nitzutz up a certain way. You can't really lift that nitzutz up and turn it back into Elakus mamish in Atzilus, so that it should be nichel v'nishachid in Atzilus. That lo yachol also. Because Ayin chovish matter is such Beis. You're still somehow or another verchapt in the inyan from Biyah. You're in that pechel, as you might say. So you get it up a certain way, but it can't sort of go into its final destination. What has to happen? There has to be a hand comes down, milmaila, and elevates it up into the emether. And that's the inyan of a biro milmaila, which is called biro sheni. It's a further biro which occurs milmaila lamata, and that's in the birurim after all everything's already. It's not exactly this, but after all the different ways of bringing about the nefila, everything's already been completed, and now the Nivroim Lamata are doing their job. In that gufa you got this biro sheni, what does it kaviyochol through Yosef that's through Yosef HaTzadik, and it's written over there clearly that there has to be a bittul, a certain bittul to Yosef. You have to be through the bittul to Yosef. That helps you to be mamshich, the necessary koichos, which will complete your avodah. Not just that you need the bittul for yourself, but it'll be mashlim your avodah. What you did will have a proper result and a proper tachlit. And that's called the biro sheni. So the Rebbe said, Al derech zeh is like this biro milmaila lamata at the beginning. And he's going to say, if it's like that after you already being mevarim milmata lamata, then kol v'chaim at the very beginning, when everything started, milmaila lamata. And so it's a comparison to that, but derech kol v'chaim. So let's read it now and we'll see. It's a very challenging section. This whole thing is very That's very amazing. So he says, שעל-ידי זה נכלולים הנצוצות הביאה בקדוש האצילות ונעשה אלוקות ממש. וזהו ההפרש בין הביאור הראשון דמלמטה למעלה והביאור השני דמלמעלה למטה. דביאור דמלמטה למעלה הוא להפריד הטוב מן הרע. You see, to busy with the ra, to schlep the tov out of him, ולהעלויסה למעלה. אבל אין הנכלל עדיין באלוקות. It's not yet nikla in Elikus, like the Alter Rebbe said over there, because it's got your stamp on it, and you, with all your goodwill, and with all your good actions, with all that you are, of your shaykh and biyah, you're in the pekel of biyah. So therefore, even the netzutzes that you elevate, you know, how do you call it, a little bit fachapt, you know, a little bit barirat, you know, with the yeses of biyah still. והבירור השני, דשמה מלמעלה למטה, הוא שנכלל בקדושת האלוקות האצילוס ונעשה אלוקות ממש. Or that nitzvah that you, little you down here in biyah, that you were mishtadel and you were misyageya and you were maleh, yeah, there has to be this birur sheni, yeah, alidei Yosef, what Yosef represents, all part of the Gilui. And that eventually brings it, and then it's able to go back into its original tachlis of becoming mamish elikus and faket, and he's married talvi ali there mamshikti oilis of toyo bekelim the tikkun with the guns shleimus Ayin, the shleimus pools abiro. Omikol shechein shuhu kain betchilas abiro milmala. If it's like that after the first biro milmata lamaila, there's this pool of a biru milmaila lamata, then how much more so in the very first, at the beginning of everything, when he was busy only with the what you might call the kesef, only the dova hatoiv melachatchila, yeah, then how much more so the betchilas abiru milmaila lamata b'madrege ho elyoino sheniklolim mamish b'madrege erein seif the tikkun b'chinas melech shmini hado. Oh, he said, that's what he did from the Birur Zayin Malkin de Kadmoin of Toyu. It's written that the Vayimlech Vayom and Vayimlech, that was 7 of them. And then the 8th one was the Melech Shmini Hu Hador. Oh, but he didn't, it's not written about him, Vayom. So the Rebbe said that who is that? Is who B'chinas Yeseid Ak. He is the Indian from Pnimius of Ak. Now, why do we say that Yesod is Pnimius? Because Yesod is a very, very Pnimius Girui from Kavayim Toi. On the contrary, it's really the Tachlis of the Kavayim Toi. And to a certain extent, Yesod is in a way more Pnimi than the higher Madrigas in Kavayim Toi. And then afterwards there's Malchus. But Malchus is already shot to the Girui Shalamata. And that's called Chitonius Ak. So therefore the Rebbe says like this. He said, Ukanoida design Malkin de Toyu, hey, Mipinas Malchus Da'ak, Shazo, Pinas Chitonius Ak. Malchus Da'ak is already considered Chitonius Ak. And now Ak is the first Gilui after the Tzimtzum Kiyador. Now why is it called Chitonius? Because that's already shot to the Gilui into Akudim and later into Toyu. Umelech Shmini Ador is Sheresh Hatikun, who is Seid Da'ak, not Malchus. Shazo Pchinas Pnimius Ak. Like it's Mavur in the famous Maimah in L'Kutei Torah, when I get to the Mila, Kamaisha Kosov, L'Kutei Torah, Diba Amaschel, Lam Natzech ala Shminiya. The Alter Rebbe is Mavaya that the Yesod Ak is Pnimius Ak Mami. That's what the Yinah from Mila. That's the Madrega from Mila, that's Nimsha, but the Mamela, but it's interesting. But not long before I was working on this particular passage, I called up a guy from Krachabat, and I said, could he help me with a certain, could he do something, a certain thing that I needed? And he said, only in another 2 days. I said, we should have bayah. So I said, he's also making Shever Bracha, and he's just made a bris today. He's in the middle of Shever Brachas, and he also had one of his children had a bris. So he's busy, in inverted commas. So I said, you're also busy with a bris, your bris is the meaning for Shmini, the half an hour later, boom, you guys don't have any pushing a little sort of balbadja hashgacha prati, so we all look for the big hashgacha prati. Anyway, so he says, diva matalam natechela ala shminiya or b'shoyer shoy hu b'chines hu u'shmoy. Now, there's something a little bit funny here. I don't know what it is. This is the so-called corrected version of the Ayin Beis, so I don't like to say there's a mistake, but something is a little bit strange. That if you look over there in the thing that he quotes the Rebbe, then Azal Loshen doesn't occur. So, I'm slightly, I think what he means is like this. I'm going to read it the way I would understand it. Ubeshur shoi hu prinas hu ushmoy echad shelamayla miazayin shemesh aklulim ba'atmos. So I'm going to have shemesh klulim ba'atmos. So the word hu, for example, if you take the oasis in hu, that's hu ushmoy echad. The word hu is hu ushmoy echad. Kiyador. I think that's what he's referring to. In other words, there's a madreg of hu is referring to Hashem, and it is hu is really hu ushmoy echad. In other words, there's a madreg of shame, which is mamish miyuchad with him, and then there's a madreg of shame, which is albeit still miyuchad with him, but it's a little bit, we're not so miyuchad anymore. And that's the inifan malchus da'ach and pnimis da'ach. Malchus da'ach is mamish that shmoy, yeah, it's really still shy to the atzmos. Can you do it? Adam kadmain is still shy to the atzmos. Over the chitonius of that is already got a bit of a shaychus too lower, and that's where we get the Zion Malvin kadmain. That's where they begin. That's where they first appear. The ilu pnimius is that's mamish kadmain. That's mamish hu. Pnimius is mamish hu. And mamela, that's hu ushmoi, and then there's hu ushmoi echad. That's the yichud of hu ushmoi. Atche ein lehavdil beineim klau, ein ledaber al pratim klau. And there's the inifan, the shurish, the Zion Malkin, what that's in Chitonius Act, I know Malchus Da'ach, what that's what they call the Zion Malkin Kamon, how they're klulim be'ah atzvus, because we're still talking about Ach is still kolum mamish be'ah. That's how I would make it. If anybody has any better suggestions, then I don't know. Very difficult sentence. כמו שקושי באביר דבני נוצאתי בהיסופס תראה ובמקים אחר. But that's a famous mind from the middle Rebbe over there. ענן נוצאתי לכו שכם אחד על אחיך אשר לקחתי מיד האמיר וחרבי ובקשתי. That's a famous mind of Teruah. There's a beer when the middle Rebbe also in the Teisov. Omishom hu abiru da'atzilas b'chinas milmaila lamata. He said, "Davki from that level, from pnimius, from the inif and hu shmoy echad. That's the inif of the biru of atzilas. How it is milmaila lamata. V'niklo mamish b'madregazu. That becomes mamish part of pnimius ha'elakus, pnimius ach. V'nas b'chinas oyer the tikkun b'yeta. It becomes mamish the inif. Elakus metukan el kilo be'etem, and mamera, that's beduime to how the netzutzis have a birusheni when they come out, and they also become etem. The difference is that's bederach ishtadlos and bederach einochanami, and here it's a ine for no maila lamata bederach kal v'chaim, bederach kol shechim. I mean, what do we do? I would have liked to finish, but I'm afraid I'm not going to be able because I've got a double mile with the Bachrim. However, that's the Nakuda that we're trying to bring across. V'gama keilim da'atzilas ein elakus mamish v'niklo gam kein b'shem ma rak shehem b'chinas ban dama v'ayinu shemaviyim megalim if I got as gilui in atzilas from the ak a pnimis atzilas, that's all in a way of kilo. It's tremendous, but it's all going upwards. It's all in a way of iskalas be'amokia. Therefore, it's very hard to bring it down. And therefore, you got to have the chitonius about malchus, and even that is a what only leads to kulam akudim b'kli achas, but they're going to do it. So therefore the Rebbe said, no, the reason why you need Kalim and Atzila, and the reason why they've also got to do with the Inyan from Shema, so because of even the Kalim, what they got more to do with the Etzem Inyan of the Shmira, they're also, everything is Alidei Shema, because their Inyan is to be Megala, everything, it should come down, Lamata, as we said, Beis is Parin, Boy Kona, Yirani, Elon, it's got to come down and be Meir, the Inyan from Elam's Biyah. So he said, that's the Inyan from Bandama. Whatever the Kalim are not Mamishma. The others are Mamishma in the highest possible even of Biru Bietem, his Tachlis, his Galas of Elikud, in the even Atzmi of Ma, or the Kalim, their Inyan is, how they call it, to carry the whole load and to carry the Achrayas, to bring it down Lamata. Therefore, the Inyan from Bandama. And we have a whole new idea. That there's an Inyan from Bandama. There's an Inyan from Ban, what Ban is become Atcher Behem. But it's Ma. It's not Stammer Behemoth, it's a Ma'atika Behemoth. In other words, as you might say, it's the Rebbe's donkey. No, Bilam's donkey, Chas B'Soy, Chas Cholilu, Chas B'Lahatzki. Now this is the Rebbe's donkey, it's a bande de Ma. It's all in it just to carry over Ma. Anyway, and then he goes on, the Rebbe, that's even from Torah until Shebiksav. So we'll see about that, Beis Hashem, in coming and preceding episodes, Beis Hashem. We take Amitius from Admosai, and we take Hakroza Amitius from Yechia Melchama.
Yeah.
So guys, I got the most amazing email. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. There's a lady in America, she's a mother of one of our program here, but she's a whole sort of miscarevas to Yiddish family, the whole amazing mass and the whole amazing thing. I get this amazing email from her about 4 points. She wants to explain to her, how's the Rebbe Moshe, what does it mean, what's his whole relationship with Moshe. A whole amazing 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Could you please answer me? It would take me several weeks, it would take a mamish, a chibu, an essay, a whole chavris sholim to answer, because it's the answer, the shilas, it's truth, mamish tatzami, hashkeil,
It's a book of the Manash.
Yeah, well, I can't see. The mamish balachuva, they don't really come from. It's amazing. It's amazing. So it's pilik blood. I looked at the Sima. I just couldn't believe it. A lady, middle-aged lady, there's been all sorts of difficulties. It's just boom, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think we're going to have to pay her, an author or something to write me a safe. Anyway.
We can do it in his spare time.
Huh? Oh, she'll do it in his spare time. Yeah, he's got a lot of it. He's just a lady kapanka, they do a slip all the night.
That's great. You should let it line that the Tov Be'etzim.